Welcome to Manifesting a Life. This is a story of two cats, Harry and Misty. Harry came to us as about a 5-week-old kitten who had been hand nursed because it had been found by a couple of neighborhood boys and they'd taken it away and didn't realize that the mother might be coming back. And so another neighbor took the kittens that they had brought and hand nursed them and raised them until they were of age. And we ended up with one of them, a little black and white kitten. And we named him Harry. Now, we had another cat at the time, a Siamese, that we named Mauser. And when Mauser saw this little kitten that they had brought in one afternoon and left with us, and of course she hissed at it. And then for some odd reason, she associated this kitten coming in the afternoon with my husband, who always came home in the late afternoon. So after a week, she accepted the kitten, but it took her 2 weeks to forgive my husband, who had nothing to do with bringing the kitten in. Well, time passed, and Harry grew into a beautiful black and white cat, and Mauser disappeared. And we looked all over the place for her. We were living out in the country, and there were coyotes, and there was even a mountain lion roaming the area. So I was worried that may have been her demise. But we looked, we called the shelters, we looked at the ads in the paper, and about a week after she disappeared, this ad came in the paper about a found Siamese, female Siamese. And I thought, maybe she had jumped in the truck of somebody when they were out here and went into town. So I called the woman up, and when the woman gave me the description, it didn't really sound like Mauser, but I thought we better go take a look at it. So she said, I don't have it in my apartment. I'm not allowed to have animals, but I see it every time I go walking in the evening. It's behind this bank building. She told me which bank it was and where they were. She said, I'll go meet you there tomorrow. And so the next evening, my husband and I drove out there to this bank, parked, walked around to the back of the bank, and there must have been 100 cats there. This was a big cat colony of feral cats. And this woman shows up, and she said, there she is, right there. And it's like, how do you pick out one cat out of hundreds of cats here running around? Well, apparently this was the only cat that wasn't really feral. She could pet her, she could feed her, hand feed her and everything. And she said, I'm just so worried about her because she's so thin. And please take her. I can't take her because I would like to take her to the pound at least, get her out of here. Since she never saw her in the morning, she wasn't able to catch her in the morning when she was available to go take her to the pound. She only saw her in the evening when the pound had already closed. So she finally talked us into taking the cat. So we took the cat, but I don't take animals to the shelter. No, I don't like doing that. So instead, we took her to our vet the next morning, who had her spayed and gave her shots. And then we brought her home after she had spent several days at the vet because we had to go off for the weekend. We just left her there with the vet for a while. And then we brought her home, so she was wide awake and active and all. And we opened up the carrier, and there's Harry down on the ground. It's like, who we have? Who we have? I said, got a playmate? And she jumps down, and what does she do? She promptly hisses at him. She taught Harry a bad word. All day long, Harry went through the house hissing at things. Anything that moved, the people that moved through the house, any other animals that moved in the house, he would hiss at things that are out of place, such as the upright vacuum cleaner that was sitting on the floor in the living room. He hissed at it as he walked by. It was very amusing, but he had never hissed before. She taught him this. Well, that kind of set the tone between Harry and Misty, and they were constantly at each other. They just couldn't seem to get along. Neither of them wanted the other one there. And I really wanted them to get along a little bit better, at least quit fighting among themselves. So one day I decided to take it to a higher level. I had gotten used to talking to my own guides at this point. So I decided, okay, I called my guides in, and then I asked for the guides for Misty and Harry to come in. And I wanted to talk to all of them. And I told them I needed to do something. I wanted to do something that would help them get along better. At least quit fighting between themselves. At least they weren't being real vicious with each other, but just, not a lot of animosity between them. So it wasn't too long after that when this black cat shows up in the neighborhood. And it takes up with our neighbor across the street. And they named him No Shoes Joe. Because he had these little white feet on all 4 feet. But he was black otherwise. And so No Shoes Joe, we'll call him Joe for short. That's what we ended up calling him anyway. He would come around and he was very friendly to people. Oh, he loved people. He loved the cat toys in my house. But he was vicious to the other cats. I mean, really vicious. He wanted to cleanse the whole world of other cats, and he was going to be the only one. And so we really started not being able to allow him in the house anymore. And one day, in fact, he had Misty cornered against the house and underneath some shrubbery, and she was in a panic. And I could not get him to run off. You chase him and he'd come right back. He was just zeroing in on her. And so I reached down behind the shrubbery and grabbed her to get her out of the situation and get her back into the house. And she didn't know what had her, and so she whipped around real fast and sunk her fang down into my palm of my hand. I mean, it was sunk all the way down. It didn't get infected or anything, but she was so scared, and I understood that. But I still liked Joe. He was very friendly to people. And so when I'd see him outside the house, I'd go out and pet on him. Well, one night, when it's totally dark outside, I saw these green eyes glare into the glass pane on the French door that we had. And so I went outside on the back porch to pet on Joe. And I petted on him, and he purred at me and did his cat thing against me. And then I turned around to go back in, and there was Joe again, over there. Wait a minute. Joe's over here, and Joe's over there. There were 2 Joes. And well, this other cat was all black, except for a little bit white clerical collar on him. So we ended up calling the second black cat Joe's Shadow. And so he got shortened to Shadow. And he was very friendly. He was very mild-mannered, got along with anybody and everything. He could even get along with dogs. And it was totally different personality. But my cats, Misty and Harry, really didn't tell the difference between him and Joe. And so they were kind of like, I don't know, I don't trust this kid over here. So they never really quite got intimate with Shadow. But we adopted Shadow. And we soon moved after that incident. And so we took Shadow with us. So Shadow gave Harry and Misty a common enemy so that they could kind of unite a bit. And they quit attacking each other. And they wanted to attack Shadow because he was a big, strong cat. And he played. That was one of the problems, I think, is that he loved to play and he played hard. He was kind of a rough and tumble type of cat. And since he was so similar to Joe, they were really scared about him playing with them like that. In fact, when first time I took him to the vet to get his shots, the vet, gave him a shot and said, "Boy, he about bit my needle." He was that tough-skinned. He didn't feel it when they scratched and bit him, but they would feel it when he scratched and bit them. So things did settle down between Misty and Harry. They kind of came to a truce. They just kind of avoided each other after that. They didn't really tie it in with each other anymore, but they got along in the same space by basically avoiding and ignoring each other. And that worked. I was okay with that. That would be okay. They never became fast friends, and I didn't expect that. I didn't necessarily need that. I just wanted them to be calm with each other. What did I manifest? A truce between 2 animals. I believe it can often be tricky when you're trying to manifest something that involves another person, even another animal. And so I wasn't too sure how this would work out, but I believe that calling in the guides and letting them work on their side to see what they could do to bring some kind of a truce between these 2 that did help. And I think it was for their benefit. So I'm always kind of leery about, is it going to work or not going to work when you're trying to do something for somebody else? Because like I've said before, they may have their own reasons for things happening around them and with them, even animals. They're like that for a reason. And of course, how did I manifest this? By talking to the guides. I do that a lot. Maybe you ought to try that. You don't even have to feel them, even though I do feel them. I can sense nowadays, I sense when my guides are here because my right thigh tingles when I feel them near me. I feel them right now. They know I'm talking about them. But calling your guides, ask them for help when you need it. They're there to help. They can't do anything unless you ask them, though. They can sit there and watch. And I guess you really want to go through this experience. Okay. So be sure and like this if you want to hear more of these kind of stories. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing. That really helps out my channel. And now I want you to go out, talk to your spirit guides, and go manifest your life.